Today I'll be talking about Dell EqualLogic's host integration tools for Linux. I'll also demonstrate some of the configuration and display commands. In order to talk about the advantages of the HIT for Linux, we first have to dive into Linux iSCSI concepts and Linux native MPIO. To connect the server to iSCSI storage, you must have a native software initiator. On Linux, the initiator is based on OpeniSCSI. Most iSCSI initiators are built into the Linux operating system, such as Red Hat and SUSE. You can also download the OpeniSCSI software from the internet. The management is mostly command line based using the iSCSI ADM command. A configuration file, iscsid.conf, is used to define most of the iSCSI settings. The iSCSI device appears as a typical local Linux SCSI device. Persistent naming is accomplished with UDEV and DM multipath. Now let's take a look at Linux native MPIO concepts. First, you'll have to manually define multiple initiator interfaces using the iSCSI ADM command, which will bind an iSCSI session to a network interface card. What we are doing here is defining a path from the server to the iSCSI storage. DevMapper associates a universally unique ID to the iSCSI device. You can assign more recognizable names to the device which will be consistent throughout. You use the multipath.conf file to define and manage multipath devices. For example, defining the Dell EqualLogic PS Series arrays as a device and assigning a friendly name. The multipath daemon detects multiple iSCSI sessions or network paths to a single volume. Let's look at some more Linux MPIO concepts. With single path I/O on the left, you have several possible single points of failure: the NIC, switch, and the cable. If anything fails, you'll lose access to the volume and, more importantly, access to your data. Linux MPIO, on the other hand, utilizes multiple paths. If a NIC, switch, or cable were to fail, multipath D will try the other path. The next slide will illustrate more uses for Linux MPIO. Here is a picture of a multipath server with multiple NICs. It shows redundant paths from the server to the iSCSI volume. In Linux, the multipath device is the DM multipath service, which manages multiple network paths to a single iSCSI volume. Since this server has multiple paths to the volume, the paths can be grouped into one of two policies: multibus, active-active, or failover, active-passive. With multibus, I/O is sent down all available paths, which in some cases increases performance. With failover, only one I/O path is used, and the other available paths are used for failover in case of a failure. A path selector algorithm, round robin, or least QDEF can be set up in the multipath.conf file. When using round robin, I/O is sent down each path in a rotating fashion. Least QDEF will send I/O down a path based on which path has the least amount of traffic. Now that we've gone over Linux native MPIO, let's move on to the HIT for Linux. This is the first HIT for Linux release. HIT for Linux supports Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5.5 and 6.0, both 32 and 64-bit. The configuration and management is all command line based. In this initial release, we concentrated on platform level integration. Now let's look at the components of the HIT for Linux. HIT for Linux has a new multipath I/O daemon called the EqualLogic Host Connection Manager daemon, EHCMD. With EHCMD, interfaces and sessions are automatically managed and the I/O is intelligently routed. EHCMD replaces multipath D and you will no longer have to manually edit multipath.conf or add interface records manually. Now you use the ehcmcli command to configure or change MPIO settings. Now you can also discover and initialize PS Series arrays from your Linux server. You can also configure and manage access to the PS Series array. For example, you can set up the group name, the group IP address. Configuration changes to EqualLogic MPIO can also be done using the Remote Setup Wizard command line interface, RSW CLI. Next, there is a new host performance and tuning tool. EQLTune simplifies Linux iSCSI system tuning. All parameters are validated based on Dell's recommended practices. The output from EQLTune is separated into severity categories: critical, warning, suggestion, and OK. EQLLog is a troubleshooting tool that automatically gathers Linux and Dell EqualLogic appropriate logs into a tar file so you can send the output to Dell support. Now let's take a closer look at the three main components of the HIT for Linux. The three main components of the HIT for Linux version 1.0 are EqualLogic Host Connection Manager daemon, EHCMD, Remote Setup Wizard Command Line Interface, RSWCLI, and EqualLogic Performance Tuning, EQLTune. Let's first look at Remote Setup Wizard Command Line Interface, RSWCLI. With RSWCLI, you can discover uninitialized PS Series arrays from a Linux server, then initialize those discovered arrays. You can manage access to the PS Series arrays by setting the group name and the group IP address. Also, you can manage MPIO configuration settings. Some examples of the settings that can be managed include the network exclusion or inclusion list, connections per volume, I/O per path, and load balancing policy. Unlike HIT for Windows, there is no graphical interface for the Remote Setup Wizard. Next is the EqualLogic Host Connection Manager daemon, EHCMD. To repeat, EHCMD replaces multipath-D, and you no longer have to manage MPIO by using multipath.conf. EHCMD does intelligent routing of I/O, which will improve latency and reduces overall network bandwidth by eliminating I/O forwarding among group members. It also dynamically manages sessions and automatically sets up an optimal mesh based on the available hardware on the host and PS Series group members. The next couple of slides will illustrate how EHCMD works with PS Series arrays. To understand how EHCMD works, we must understand Dell EqualLogic PS Series arrays scalability. On the left, there is a Dell server with a single iSCSI session to two PS Series arrays. Notice that when the second PS Series array was added to an existing group and pool, the volume was automatically load balanced between both PS Series arrays. When a third PS Series array is added, the volume is automatically load balanced across the three arrays. On the left, the server's I/O ports only knows about the PS Series arrays that they are connected to. But what happens if the file is on one of the other two PS Series arrays? Since each PS Series array has a copy of the page table, they know where all the files reside on each array. In order to satisfy the request from the server, the PS Series array will have to do I/O forwarding between each array. I/O forwarding can add significant I/O overhead to the iSCSI network. So what would happen if the server had a copy of the page table and also knew where to directly find files in all three arrays. Hit for Linux enables the server to have a copy of the page table. Since the server knows about the volume layout on all three arrays, direct iSCSI sessions can be automatically created to each array. The next couple of slides will better illustrate this. Normally, with Linux native MPIO, there would be only 2 host iSCSI sessions to one array. But with Hit for Linux installed, 2 more host iSCSI sessions are automatically created to the other array. You can view how many host iSCSI sessions have been created by using the ehcm CLI command. If another PS Series array is added to the same group and pool, 2 more host iSCSI sessions will be dynamically created. To summarize, using Hit for Linux will enhance the scalability features of the PS Series arrays by allowing the server to know the volume layout and have direct access to the files on all three arrays. This will decrease the iSCSI overhead between the PS Series arrays. Let's move on to EqualTune. EqualTune checks your Linux system for an optimal iSCSI performance configuration. EqualTune in verbose mode will tell you which parameter has to be changed, what to change the parameter to, and how to change it. EqualTune performs analysis only. It does not change any system settings. Again, the output of EqualTune is put into 4 severity categories: critical, warning, suggestion, and OK. EqualTune has 3 modes of operation. When you install Hit for Linux, the last task that is done by the install script is to run EqualTune in summary mode. If you see anything listed under the critical column, you should run EqualTune in verbose mode. The output will describe the recommended value and provide instructions on how to modify the setting. When running EqualTune in list mode, the output is simply a list of each parameter that will be checked and the recommended value for each. It does not do any analysis of the system. At this time, I would like to demonstrate some of the Hit for Linux commands. The Hit for Linux has already been installed on this server. The next task is to discover any uninitialized PS Series arrays. And the way we do it is run a command called rswcli, and we give it a -d. Now this will take a couple of minutes. As you can see, we found one uninitialized PS Series array. It gives you the serial number. We need to jot down that serial number because we'll need it in order to initialize the array. The next thing we're going to do is initialize the array and give the IP address, the group name, and so on. What I've done to save a little bit of time is put together a script to do this because the command is rather long. So what I'll do is run a script called initialize.sh. As you can see, with this rswcli command, we're initializing the array, we're putting in the serial number, we're also adding a group name with the group IP address, and we're giving the array RAID 10, and we're also putting in a username password so we can log into the group. This will take a minute or so. Okay, Now we have an initialized PS Series array. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at EqualTune. If we run EqualTune in summary mode, you're going to see that we have two critical errors. So as I mentioned earlier, when we see two critical errors, we need to fix them. And the way to do that is to run EqualTune and verbose mode. And I'm going to pipe it to more so we can take a look at it. And we're looking for Ethernet devices. So we toggle down. And we see Ethernet devices. As you can see, we have a couple of critical errors, and down here it's telling us how to fix the problem. Now if we get out of here with a Q, we're going to run just like it said, ETH tool -- offload ETH4 GRO off. And we're going to do the same thing for ETH5. And we're going to run EqualTune again. As you can see, we no longer have the critical errors under Ethernet devices. So now we're safe to configure our MPIO. Okay, let's review and compare features. iSCSI server settings. With Linux native, there is a lot of trial and error and guesswork. EqualTune takes the guesswork out of tuning for iSCSI performance. The output will describe the recommended value and provide instructions on how to modify the settings. Remote array initialization. Not available with Linux native. You have to connect the laptop directly to the array to initialize it. But the HIT for Linux provides an interface, RSW CLI, to do this from the Linux server. Device names. When using the HIT for Linux, the PS volume name is included for easy recognition. Multipath D is not required with HIT for Linux, so no manual configuration using the multipath.conf file is necessary. iSCSI records, sessions, interfaces, and auto login are automatically managed using HIT for Linux, while Linux native management has to be done manually. Diagnostic tools. You would have to run the multipath, iSCSI ADM, and DM setup commands to get the same information that you would get from a simple EHCM CLI-D output. Linux native does not have an easy way to gather all the logs needed to do troubleshooting. HIT for Linux provides you with an EqualLog command to do this. Here are some additional resources. This is where you can download the HIT for Linux software and documentation. There are also some great technical reports that take you on a step-by-step installation and configuration of HIT for Linux and Linux native MPIO. For all of our Dell EqualLogic PS Series array customers, you can download the host integration tools for Linux for no additional cost. And with that, thank you for your time and interest in this video, and thank you for using Dell.